Welcome to From Click to Client, where we transform a confusing message into a clear, compelling story that sells. I'm your host, Chris Jones, StoryBrand marketing expert. I'm here to help you attract more dream clients with the power of story. Hello, meet Robin Emdon, creator of GetResultsology. And after taking 10 years to finish a 6-year degree, Robin discovered the science behind follow-through, and he now helps solopreneurs achieve 33% more of their monthly goals. Robin, welcome. I am so thrilled to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here today. It was so kind of you to ask me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get into doing this work that you're doing?
Okay, well, I might as well start at the end. Really, I realised that I am a chronic procrastinator, and now that might sound like oh really so well. In 2001, I trained in California. Although I'm British, I trained in California under the tutelage of Tony Robbins and his organization to be a life coach. So, it isn't exactly congruent with being a life coach that you wake up one day and you realize that you're a chronic procrastinator. And in fact, that one day was not for like 18, 19, 20 years when I was bragging to my older brother that I just got my degree. I was having a coffee with him in a coffee shop and I was bragging to him in 2019, I've got my degree, aren't I brilliant? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And my brother was like, oh, I'm so bored. Can we go? And I was like, oh, no, I know. You can never impress your siblings, can you? So I thought, oh, I know. I'll tell him, trust me to take 10 years to do something I should have done in 6, which you kindly mentioned in the introduction. And he was like, yeah, what was that about? And I said, oh, procrastination. And I laughed and he laughed. And then we changed the subject. Well, then I got to thinking about it driving home. I thought, wait a minute, Emdon, you're a coach. You're a trained life coach. How dare you procrastinate? How very dare you? And, I thought I've got to square that circle. That makes no sense at all. And I had a realization. It was like a facepalm moment. And I thought, wow, I've never really thought about it before. I've always thought of procrastination in the same way that I used to think about a common cold. Before the age of COVID, when every sniffle is a suspicious and quite worrying, most of us just work through colds. Oh, I got a cold. I'll be all right in a few days. Don't worry about it. I'll be okay. It's a nuisance. It's uncomfortable, and we get over it. Mm-hmm. That's how I thought about procrastination, Chris. And it was just like, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here? Because I used to just say, oh, I've got procrastination. Oh, I'll be all right tomorrow. Hello, isn't that the procrastinator's mantra? I'll do it tomorrow, right? So that's my background. My background is by 2019, I'd been concentrating on getting my degree. I was working from home, but I wasn't doing coaching. I was doing online marketing. And I'd put the coaching down a few years earlier to concentrate on being a full-time single father. And I just didn't want to do the coaching at the same time. And so by 2019, I didn't have any connections in the industry. I had no thought about becoming a coach again. But as I started researching, because I couldn't think of the answer, I thought all those dozens and dozens and dozens of days I trained with Tony Robbins, about 100 in total, including the coaching training at the end of it all. And my brother was at that time as a mental health professional, and he couldn't quite put his finger on it. And I thought, oh, it must be obvious what the answer is. And so here I am, 5 years on. I decided to use the gift that keeps on giving, COVID and all the lockdowns, and I decided to research. And I realized that I very quickly found out that in one 10-year period, by way of an example, in the early 2000s, they'd done over 10 years worth of they'd done over 900 projects in that 10-year period. Sorry, little brain gas there. But I thought, well, I don't need to research it, but I need to translate it into English. Because my degree was in arts and humanities. I'm not a scientist. Mm-hmm. I don't do science. It's in one ear and out the other, and nothing connects. Mm-hmm. But I can understand it in the moment, and then it's like, well, how do I translate this into what I call English? As in, right. Can I understand it?
And can you metabolize it? Right? Can you absorb it into your knowing, whether it's your brain, your body, or both? Yeah. How do you do that? So I get it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, the first thing that I discovered was that procrastination is an inside job. We're hardwired to procrastination, and it begins in the limbic system. Now, my eyes are glazing over because I'm like, well, what the heck's the limbic system? Well, most people will know or could easily find out. The limbic system is the most primitive part of your brain. It's where our most basic instincts reside. It's where the fight, fight or flee response is triggered, and it's an automatic system. And if you think about it, your human brain, I've got one, you've got one, we've all got one, whatever, is all about two things. Number one, survival. Everything in our life is about how do we survive. And number two, procreation, survival of the species. Everything else, all the recreation that we do, all the jobs that we do, everything that we do with our lives is incidental to those two primary purposes that your brain is hardwired to create. And in that mix, I discovered the science was pointing out the neurology and the psychology that procrastination is actually hardwired into the brain. It's part of our flight or fight or freeze response.
So it's programmed hardware, it's hardwired in our brain to procrastinate, right? Is that what you're saying? Like we are wired to procrastinate, so we have to kind of override that limbic system to get unstuck. Is that,
I mean,
am I hearing you right?
I mean, what I'm hearing is the same as you, which is, wait a minute, which part of survival is procrastination?
Right,
Right?
right, yeah.
Well, it's the part that causes us, it's when we freeze, right? So think about it this way. If you were living in the wild and a man-eating tiger was coming at you, even though you might actually just want to get on with, cooking your dinner, doing the washing, taking the kids to school, that man-eating tiger is going to kind of prevail right now, there and then, in the moment. Got to deal with that. Got to figure out, what do I do? Well, you don't have time to figure it out. That's why we have a limbic system. The limbic system goes straight into survival mode. Do I fight it? Probably not. Do I freeze, hope that it doesn't notice me? Maybe. Or do I flee? Well, you can't really outrun a tiger, but if you put your trainers on, you can outrun the person next to you. So that's probably a viable option, right? Well, in the 21st century, unless you happen to live where there are man-eating tigers still prowling in the wild, our equivalent of man-eating tigers are bailiffs, bad news in emails and through the post, things that have been with us forever, bad news about our friends and relatives, health issues, significant relationship issues with your significant other that just upsets you terribly. All of these things cause us to feel threatened. So the limbic system embodies the threat modality. And when we are threatened, we close down. And when we close down, we put off doing things that we don't want to do and only focus on the things that either we have to do because it's urgent, because it's an emergency, like a man-eating tiger running at you, or it's just the freeze response or the flee response is, oh, I've got this bill I can't pay. I think I'll just park that and go and watch TV because I don't want to think about it. Oh, I've got this bad news about I can't pay the rent this month, or I've got this health issue which I don't know how I'm going to resolve it, but it's keeping me awake at night with worry, or my beloved has a health issue that's keeping me awake with worry. How do you deal with it? You shut down. You go into threat mode. This is a threat to your survival, if you think about it, because you are feeling threatened. And when you are threatened, then you shut down. And we have a word for that. It's called fear, and it's also called procrastination. And procrastination and fear aren't always quite the same thing, but procrastination is the threat modality. Fortunately, there's a solution, but we haven't got there yet.
So you studied 900 research papers on procrastination. What did you find the most shocking when you came into the other side of that research?
Right. Well, let me just clarify. I didn't study 900 papers. I discovered that there were over 900 papers in one 10-year period.
Got it.
And I understand why that will creep in. But what I did do was I looked for the common threads about the conclusions that were coming from those papers. And I went to the authority authors that had written their views on them. So I didn't look at memes.
Yeah.
I didn't look at other people copying other people. I went to professors and academics and people and also other coaches who are experienced, who had also looked at it. And I was looking for the common themes. I wanted to bring the common threads together. What was actually true and what wasn't true. Because if you do a search on the internet on procrastination and or productivity, which is the antithesis of procrastination, you don't get a few hundred answers back, you get millions. Well, there's an awful lot of great information out there, but there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. And I wanted to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Mm.
And so what I did was I looked for those common threads, and then I pulled those together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. There's another piece that I talk about a lot, which is from a messaging and marketing standpoint. Our brains are really wired to survive and thrive. And I think, this overlaps a lot with what you're talking about. And when it comes to messaging, or for example, if somebody comes to your website and there's too much copy, our brain is trying to conserve calories all the time, right, in order to survive. And so if we come across a document or a book or something that has a lot of information, our brains will literally turn off and say, we don't have the energy to digest this information anymore. We're going to bail. Like this is not what we're not cut out for this today, maybe tomorrow. Is that idea similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about overwhelm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Overwhelm is a key trigger of procrastination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's threat modality again. The brain felt, you've described a situation where the brain feels threatened. It's too much. Things that are too difficult, whether that's true or not, the perception that something is too difficult, overwhelm. This is why, when we're organizing our day, some people will avoid the difficult tasks and do the easy stuff. Procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do it that way around. Other people, they organize their day differently. They do the difficult stuff first because they've learned that once they get that out of the way, the easy stuff is easier to do. That's a strategy, and we haven't quite reached the point where we're talking about strategy. So let me just start shifting the dialogue a little bit.
Yeah.
There is another part of your brain which is hidden under my hat, and it's along here, and it's called the prefrontal cortex.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the prefrontal cortex is, I'm told, because I'm not a scientist, but I'm told by those that know, evolutionarily speaking, it's a much younger part of the brain. And it's where we do our rational thinking. It's where we do our decision taking.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the kicker. If you're under 25, it's not yet fully formed. Now, it probably won't come as a terrible surprise to you to understand that those 900 research papers, the majority of the projects took place at, guess where? Universities.
Colleges, right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who hangs out at colleges and universities?
People under 25.
People under 25. We call
Yeah.
them students, right? And it's a horrible fact that they're going through all the things that young life gives them. They're getting their first taste of freedom, maybe the first time away from home in their teens, and some freedom of that. So they've got all that distraction going on as they're turning into fully fledged adults. They've got busy social lives. They've got these huge curriculums that they have to get through, and which requires discipline and being productive. And the part of the brain that deals with all that isn't quite in the room yet. Elvis has not entered the building yet. Never mind left the building. He's not come in yet. Right. And so you've got this challenging situation where, of course, plenty do work through it. But the research is so prevalent because every student in the world at some point has to deal with procrastination. Some do it better than others. I mean, the statistics showed that of those who admit to procrastination, I wasn't one of them. And maybe people listening would say the same thing. I do now, but I didn't admit it then. But of those that do, 95% will admit to procrastinating sometimes. Big deal. So the dishes after dinner need cleaning. All right, I'll do them later. That's a form of procrastination. It's not life-changing. It shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. But of the 95% who admit to procrastinating, 1 in 5 of those, 20%, talk about having chronic procrastination, and that is debilitating. That's life-changing. That has real costs. That gets you very upset. It damages relationships. It damages your finances. It damages your career. It damages everything about your life. 1 in 5 out of 95%. That's a huge number of people. Mm-hmm. And that isn't because there's anything wrong with them. Remember, this is your brain. Your brain is, you're normal. It's not abnormal. It's just normal. Your name's not abnormal. Your name is normal, right? And it's just a natural reaction to life, to feeling threatened, to being overwhelmed that you described, the feeling of overwhelm. You need strategies for dealing with that. You need plans. You need to find ways to get out of being in overwhelm, which is why I wrote the book. Mm-hmm. So the book covers 3 sections. The first section, which is what we've been doing, is we've been talking about beginning to understand it. So you've got the threat modality of the limbic system, and up here, the prefrontal cortex, they call that the reward modality. And in the reward modality, you can enter full productivity. That's where your rational thinking is, right? So what I discovered was by discover, I mean for myself, I didn't do any original research, but the science was saying that in order to be fully productive, you need to trigger 3 neurotransmitters in your brain, right? Now, bear with me, because this is where I go into the science and my eyes glaze over. And if your eyes glaze over too, to the scientists, I apologize, but to the arts and humanity type people like me, you'll understand, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right? You need 3 neurotransmitters, the things that connect the neurons in your brain. You need dopamine, the very famous dopamine. Everybody's heard of dopamine. And if you've got a phone, I'll call it the dopamine in your pocket, right? Everybody knows the dopamine is the feel-good neurotransmitter, right? You need a lot of that. You also need 2 others. You need acetylcholine and you need noradrenaline. You can wake up now, because now I'm going to translate that into English. Right. Dopamine, I call that the conductor, and I have the conductor living in the prefrontal cortex in the reward modality. And it's like a conductor of an orchestra who has to bring all those separate, disparate instruments together that make an absolute cacophony of awful sound, get them organized, give them sheet music, organize them, train them, rehearse them, and get them to the point where they make the music of your life.
Wow.
Right? That's the conductor's role. Then, in order to do the work, you need to be focused. Now, the best kind of focus, and that's caused by the neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. Now, that rattles off my tongue now, but that's because I've said it about 1 million times, and I still have to, what's that word again? I still have to stop and think. I've got nothing between the ears when it comes to remembering scientific terms. Acetylcholine is naturally present in children. And if you think about it, going back to survival, when you're a child, you are the most vulnerable part of your entire life. And you have to learn to do things at an accelerated rate, at a rate that you will never need to do again, normally, under normal circumstances. You have to learn to walk. You have to learn to run. You have to learn to speak and understand language, sometimes more than one language, but certainly your main language. You have to learn to do that. You have to learn everything you have to learn as a child. And it still takes years. You're still dependent on your parents while you're doing it. But you are still learning at an accelerated rate compared to later in life. I mean, anybody that's tried to learn a language as an adult will tell you that it felt a lot harder than learning their first language as a child. They don't even remember learning their first language. And that's because acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that gives us focus. And it might seem counterintuitive, but children are brilliant at focusing. They're brilliant at it. Sure, yeah, okay, they can be distracted easily. They can have their squirrel moments, like, oh, I've got gas, right? And then they'll scream the house down because they'll focus on that until you deal with it, right? But give them. I mean, my son watched the same movie. It was a Disney movie. He liked Disney's first Cars, not Disney Pixar Cars, right? He and I have watched that hundreds of times, and he never got bored, and he was always glued to the thing the whole time it was on, right? Focus, focus, focus. Here's the kicker: when you're an adult, we don't naturally have acetylcholine in our bodies anymore. We have to manufacture it from scratch. Fortunately, we can, but it's not naturally present. How do we manufacture it? Well, it isn't. There's a chemistry lab in your brain. Your brain does it, and the way that I can tell you when it's present is the better way of describing how to manufacture it. Which is, have you ever sat down to do something, and you think, and you're really focusing on it, and it's important to you, and you really want to get it done, and you look at your watch and you think, okay, I'll do this for 10 minutes, and then I got to do something else, and then 10 minutes later you look at your watch and you think, hang on, where did that hour go? Where did that afternoon go? I've been doing this all night, right? And it might be, you could be playing a game, you could be reading a book, it doesn't matter. Because you lost track of time, that's a clue that acetylcholine is present. You've been focused. And when you're focused, you just lose track of time. You're completely focused. So, and I call that state the scholar. So you've got the conductor and the scholar in my productivity trifecta. The third member of the productivity trifecta is the fun-sized warrior, like fun-sized chocolate bars that you put in your children's lunchboxes, right? The fun-sized warrior, not the big warrior. The big warrior brings out a different neurotransmitter called cortisol. And cortisol shuts everything down that you don't need for your survival and enhances everything that you do. So it's cortisol that makes you run, right? I know you need adrenaline for that and all that, but it's cortisol that gets your mind, everything else shuts down. The prefrontal cortex, the conductor, he goes back to his dressing room and has a sleep. right?
Mhm.
You don't need her, right? You don't need
Mhm.
him.
Mhm.
They are not in the building. They have left the building. They are
Mhm.
not wanted. You have not got time, if there's a tiger coming after you, to think. All you have time to do is run, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So the reward modality is shut down, and the fun size warrior is needed, not the big warrior. The big warrior is the full fight or freeze. Now, if you're a
Mhm.
soldier, fine, you're going to need the big warrior because that's exactly what you do for a living.
Mhm.
But apart from that, you don't need that much cortisol or adrenaline in your system. What you need is noradrenaline, which gives you just a little edge of anxiety, a little bit of
Mhm.
stress, just a little bit. And the best way to think about it, the guy that summed it up beautifully for me was James Clear when he was talking about the Goldilocks rule, where he talks about not too much, not
Mhm.
too little, just enough. And
Mm.
that's what you need. You need just enough. You need to be like I'm talking to you now, Chris. I'm sat on the edge of my seat and I've just got a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of stress going on to keep my energy up. But
Mhm.
if I sit back, if I physically did that, I won't because it'll move me away from the microphone. But if I
Mhm.
physically did that, I know that my thinking process would shut right down and I'd be struggling to think of what I'm saying, about what I'm
Mm.
saying, and the next thought. Because
Mm.
physiology is huge. Physiology makes a huge difference. So
Wow.
you do need that little bit of stress or anxiety. As I say,
Mhm.
not if it's too much, you'll kick it over into big warrior, and then you're into threat modality. And by
Mhm.
the way, threat modality, squirrel,
Mm.
it's triggered that fast,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
That fast. Reward modality kind of like moseys in and takes its time coming along. You have to, you have to light a candle and put some nice music on, and or whatever
Mhm.
you need to get your environment right for you to work. You have to encourage it. You have
Mm.
to woo it.
Mm.
And that squirrel moment can take it away in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
So you have to, whereas the reward modality doesn't take away the threat modality. So, for
Mm.
example, if I'm sitting down to do some work and then I make a mistake of looking at my email and there's a nasty one in there that upsets me, it triggers me in some way, I will often get up and make myself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, go for a walk, anything to break that pattern, to try
Mhm.
and untrigger the threat modality. It depends what it is,
Mm.
but I will do anything to distract myself because otherwise I know the reward modality is not going to come in. Now, we can
Mhm.
all work in through threat modality, but it's not ideal, is it?
No, it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I would consider myself a big procrastinator, and I've gotten better at it over time. I've gotten more skilled and more compassionate about it. But like back in college days, if I had a test or a paper, you would know because my dorm room would be spotless. I would do things that I normally don't even enjoy doing just to avoid doing the real thing I didn't enjoy doing, which was studying. And I would redecorate the room. I would clean out drawers, you name it. And then all of a sudden, it would be 11:30 at night. And I'd be like, now I can study. And then at that point, I was so tired, I would just fall asleep. It was not a good system. Fast forward a couple of decades later, I took a personality test called the Colby, I think it's called the Colby. Um, and it identified that quality in me, which is that procrastination piece. And what it shared with me was that I am a procrastinator and that I do best under pressure. And so I'm so glad you brought up that idea of like just a touch of anxiety, not so much that you've got cortisol, but when I have that touch of anxiety, I do my best work. When I know I have a deadline, you know, even a day before or 2 days before, I am not someone who's going to work a little bit every day over the course of a week. I need to know, like, I'm going to dive in, I'm going to dive deep, and I have to get this done by a certain date. So that, like, when I learned that about myself, I gave myself that gift. Now I give myself that gift all the time, which is I have to start ahead of time, but not so far ahead of time that I don't have that sense of a little dash of anxiety around like got to get this done. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Well, it's fantastic. You covered a lot of ground in there, and I'm going to try and remember what you said because you covered several points. So, first of all, as I say, procrastination, we're all procrastinators, every single one of us. Now, I do know a lot of people that don't self-identify as procrastinators, and their behavior doesn't demonstrate that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's environmental. Sometimes they just don't have the opportunity. They have a boss and the boss won't let them. That said, the statistics show that something like $1.2 trillion a year are estimated to be lost to workplace procrastination. Now, I don't know how they calculated that figure, and maybe it's a few $100 billion out, but that's still a lot of money.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's traditional workplace procrastination, because there are people in the workplace there's no opportunity to procrastinate, and there are people where there is, and they'll use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally work mainly with people that work for themselves. They have no boss. I'm my own boss. I look in the mirror every morning and it's the boss looking back. I'm working for a lunatic, but he's my lunatic. But equally, he will not hold me accountable. Now, I do know people who work for themselves and they hold themselves very accountable, and they work very hard, and they don't struggle with procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
So it segues myself, I wasn't intending to go there now, but it segues myself into the research again. In 2007, the American Psychological Association did some research into student procrastination, spookily enough, right? Students again. And what they found was it might seem obvious, but it's interesting, the research backs it up. They found that students that, like you, were assigned something to do and given a time period to do it in, tended to procrastinate it to death. I mean, how many people have seen the classic scenario? Right, you've got 3 months to do this project, Chris, 3 months to do this essay, whatever. And so you get a chart out, whether it's on a computer or put it on the wall, and you map out every hour of every weekday. You make some time for, parties and socializing, but you basically map out your work hours. Oh, I can do 8 hours a day and still have time to go and get drunk or go for a walk, depending on your preference, right? And you go, right, so by the end of week 1, I will have done this. By the end of week 2, I will have done this. By the end of the month, I will have done this. By the end of the 2 months, I will have done this. By the end of 3 months, I'll be ready to hand it in, right? And you color code it and you do all of that. You go crazy. You get incredibly productive creating your charts of your working plan, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is, you probably get off to a good start, first day or two. But by the end of the first week or even the second week, what have you done?
Nothing.
Nothing, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is eventually you've got like 3 days left, and you're like, oh shoot, I wish I'd started 3 months ago when I planned. And you panic and you end up in this, I'm not describing anything that nobody isn't aware of, that nobody hasn't heard of, but you panic and you're like, I've got to get it in, and you hand it, and you do like 48 hours without sleep.
Right.
And what you hand in is very substandard. You may be lucky to get a grade at all. You might just wing it, but you've let yourself down. Never mind the tutors, that doesn't matter, but you've let yourself down, and you're kicking yourself, right? Because one of the things that would be, and that, okay, so I was going to digress then, but I'll stick to my point about the American Psychological Association. So what they discovered was that courses at colleges that have a strong element of accountability, those students tended to score much higher grades, and those courses had much higher pass rates than the courses where the adults in the room, the professors and the teachers, were more relaxed and just, oh, you're an adult now. You have to learn to be you have to do it yourself. You have to learn to do all of these things by yourself. That's not our job. We give you the work, and if you do it, that's up to you. And if you don't, it's up to you. It's very mature. It feels very liberating and enlightening, that you do that. You don't have parents telling you got to be home by such and such a time at night, and teachers telling you got to hand this in by so and so a time, like they do at school, right? Those courses, they found, they tend to score less well. They tend to have lower pass rates. Now, hello, that isn't rocket science, unless it actually is a rocket science course, but it isn't. That makes sense. Unsurprisingly, the courses that have a reputation for holding the students more accountable tended to have lower enrollment rates, which is crazy. Because if you're one of these people, I mean, there are plenty of very self-actualized students out there. If you really want to get a good grade, get yourself on a course where they hold you accountable. That was the lesson. Right. And never mind the fact that it might not be the most popular course. That's because, you don't want to be controlled at that level, right? So that's what got me interested in accountability. That's why when I was writing the book, I realized I actually need to set myself up as an accountability coach. I was a trained life coach. Your skill sets you never forget. And I realized that 80% of the benefit that my clients used to get when I was coaching them was from the 20% accountability. It never occurred to me before. It was just like a penny drop moment. Oh yeah, it was the accountability that actually got them the results. I can do that. I can help people with that, because that's the one thing you can't recreate from home, by the way. It's the one thing. You can have a nice coffee machine if you like coffee. I do. You can have a nice view from your window. You can have flexible working hours, you know, but you cannot recreate external accountability. And I encourage people to think about that.
We need
Well,
it.
you might need it. Okay. I'm not, it's too self-serving of me to say you must have it, but I will say that's where the 33% comes from. That was another piece of research done in the same year, 2007, by the Dominican University of California, Gail Matthews. And they looked at the power of goal setting and writing down goals. And I'm not a great believer in goals. You might find that hard to believe, but I'm not, because the research demonstrated something that I'd always instinctively felt about goals. I just didn't understand it, that goals are not themselves a great way to be successful. And that is because the setting of the goal sets up in your mind an obligation that causes you to feel stressed. And where does stress reside in our brain? In threat modality, in the limbic mode. And so if you feel stressed, you're going to avoid the goal. So I use goals in my coaching, but as milestone markers, as a way to get into a bigger picture, which I call the personal life vision, which is about who are you becoming? Who do you see yourself as? But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I just wanted to mention a couple more things about what you said. So you also mentioned, I've got a thing in the book called the productivity gauge, which is where you can be very, 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 very unproductive. And that's called procrastination. You don't get anything done, and it's obvious when you're doing it. That's why I've got a whole section dedicated to understanding, because if you understand it, you can capture it. For example, well, by way of analogy, let me explain. If you get to the end of the year and you don't have enough money, you can always make more money. Money is infinite. Governments print money all the time, and they want more money. They just print it, right? You as an individual, it's against the law to print money, but you can come up with ways of making more. But when you get to the end of the year of procrastination, that's a year lost of time. And that's finite. I mean, you only have a certain amount. You don't know how much you've got, but you do know you can't get back what you've used up. So the best time to catch procrastination is as you are doing it, whilst you're doing it, and before it becomes embedded in your day or your week or your month or your year or your decade, because then you can do something about it. So in the understanding section, I'm teaching people to fish rather than just giving them the fish, because you need to say, oh wow, I'm procrastinating right now. And then the second section of the book is about strategies and about motivation. And the third section of the book is about momentum. We all talk about with productivity about motivation, but we never talk about, almost never about, well, how do you keep up the momentum? And that's where the 33% comes from, with the Gail Matthews research in California University, where she found that people who set goals, yes, they set goals, yes, they write them down, but the ones who just set goals, she found, it was only a small survey study, but I think it was highly illustrative. After a month, about 43% of them reported that they were part of their way towards achieving their goals, or all of the way towards achieving them, and they hadn't written them down because they held it in their minds. That's fine. We can all do that. But of the ones who wrote down their goals and had high levels of accountability, they were checking in weekly, they were getting emails from their accountability coach, they were having to send emails off to report what they were doing. At the end of the same month, that group achieved 76% of their goals, or well on their way. That's 33% more. Now, that's not an astonishing figure. You see figures banned, it's 100% more, it's 95% more if you get an accountability coach. No, the research shows it's 33% more if you have accountability as part of what you do. Which, when you think about it, if you got 33% more done by the end of every month, how much more cash is that in your bank account? How much more time does that mean that you can spend with your friends and family and your loved ones and doing your things, your hobbies? How much more health benefit is there because you're taking better care of yourself? By the way, I mentioned the health thing because, as an aside, when I first started writing this book, I was 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And as I started rolling out the technology on myself and using it on myself, I started to think more and more and more, I don't want this weight. I don't need it. And I dropped it all in 6 months, 60 pounds in 6 months. And I'm not using any drugs or injections. I just decided it raised my level of self-esteem so much and my level of confidence so much, because I've now dealt with it. I still consider myself a chronic procrastinator, but I catch it and I do something about it. And it never takes over my life like it did before, 4 decades. And so I was just like, and the weight's gone as well. So I know it can improve your health as well. That's a personal thing. I'm not claiming that it can make you thinner, but it worked for me because that was something I wanted to achieve. And so I have a thing in my book called the productivity gauge, which makes the distinction between being productive on things where you feel good at the end of the day and but that doesn't mean you got anything done that really mattered, and being productive on the things that move the needle on my productivity gauge, which is all about achieving your personal life vision. So for example, if your personal life vision is in 15 years time, from a standing start where you're not now, and you want to be in 15 years, you want to be an oncologist, a very highly qualified specialist doctor. It takes about 10 or 15 years, I believe. I'm not an expert, but I believe it does. Well, if I decided today I'm going to just tidy the garage, at the end of the day, I'll have a very tidy garage and a great big smug look on my face, and I'll feel really pleased with myself, really tired but happy. I've had a productive day. If I then ask myself the question, what have I done towards achieving my ultimate goal of becoming an oncologist? Nothing. I'm not going to be opening a surgery in the garage. I'm not going to be opening a doctor's practice in the garage. It's just I decided to distract myself with productive work that felt good. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can be very productive and still feel like you've achieved something, but you've got to also be quite picky about. That's another thing where someone who holds you external accountability doesn't have to be a professional coach, can be just an accountability buddy. I've had plenty of those over the years. In my book, I talk about there's good things and bad things about those, you know, but so some pitfalls you need to avoid. But yeah, they'll help you with that. They'll point out, yeah, great, garage is really clean and tidy, but didn't you want to be an oncologist?
Right. How did you, like, you wrote a book, right? Which is, a lot of people want to write a book. A lot of people never make that happen. You lost weight. So many people want to lose weight and just can't seem to do it. How did you implement your own systems on yourself? What did you do specifically?
Well, I would say to you about the losing the weight. The point I was making there was it was a byproduct. It wasn't really a conscious thing. It was I didn't just wake up one morning and thought, oh, I'm losing weight. I did actually decide, oh, I'm just sick of this. I'm just going to get rid of this weight. Yeah, I did do that. But that comes from because when we talk about people who procrastinate, it's not always the case. And I don't want to I am going to generalize. I don't, because not everybody is the same. That's why my book is full of different strategies, because no two people will work with the same strategies, will work with the same people in the same way. You have to have a variety of strategies that you can work with. So, because some will work better for you than others, right? So, but for me, one of the things that we talk about in the book is how if you are procrastinating, if you are staying in threat modality, it's because you have rationalized or even irrationally decided that makes you happier. It fulfills your needs. And I talk about the human needs in my book. It fulfills your needs. I'm not talking about your base needs. I'm talking about your emotional needs.
Staying in the fear, in the fight or flight.
Yes.
Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Meet your needs.
Because one of your needs, the Tony Robbins, my teacher, teaches the 6 human needs. I mentioned those in the book, but he got that originally from Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs.
Yep.
And he refined it, and all credit to Tony for refining it in a brilliant way. But for example, one of your needs is certainty. Well, you know, if you are overwhelmed by that you were talking earlier about something that sends you into overwhelm, there's just too much information. That's because you're uncertain. How do you get certainty? Here's a way. Eat something, preferably something chocolatey or fatty or sugary. That's how we put on weight, because we get certainty from those foods. You don't get certainty from eating a lettuce. You do get certainty from eating a donut.
Why?
Because of the sugar hit and the fat hit.
The dopamine.
It just triggers all of that. I don't know if it triggers dopamine, and now that's outside of my scope, but it may do. Yeah, you certainly feel happier.
Yeah.
I had a stressful day the other day, and I just decided I'm going to, in quotes, treat myself. And I had an ice cream.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been thinking about it all day. And in the end, I thought, oh gosh, just one ice cream. What the hell? You know, not going to change my life unless I slip on it and break my neck. It's fine. It's just one ice cream. Right.
Right.
So I had an ice cream, and instantly, the minute that ice cream was in my mouth, I felt a chemical change. I felt it. You don't feel that with lettuce.
Right.
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 It's a comforting feeling.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not prescribing ice cream for people. I'm just pointing out that's why we comfort eat. Right? Because certain fields, if they are sugary or fatty, they do trigger comfort in the brain. And I'm not a biologist, but yes, there is a real biological phenomenon going on there, and it's not healthy.
Right.
Don't do it, but it happens. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, when I decided I just don't want that anymore, I'll get my comfort now from the satisfaction of knowing I've done a good day's work, and that I'm feeling more successful, and that I've cracked this. See, I didn't write this book, by the way, no disrespect. I didn't write it for your listeners. I wrote it for me.
Mm.
And as I was writing it, I just did what I've always done, which is I come from a place of service. And I thought, actually, you know what? I could share this with other people. And that's why it's not written as though it was written by a scientist. The only scientific word on the book is the ology at the end of Get Results. Ology. I've got an ology, like neurology, psychology, biology, right?
Yeah.
But, there's other ologies out there. It just means the study of something. But in my case, it's get results, as in how can you get guaranteed to get results in a scientific way. So it's based on the science, which I've talked about. And it's also, it's a method, which science always follows a prescriptive step-by-step system. So there's both of them are in there. That's me trying to be clever. But the point is that I'm not that clever. What I am good at is communicate. I hope, maybe your listeners don't agree, but I hope I'm good at communicating. I hope that some will remember noradrenaline, dopamine, and acetylcholine, but I'm hoping everyone remembers you need the conductor, you need the scholar, and you need the fun-size warrior. That's all you need.
I love
those people in the building. When they're in the building, when they're in present, then you know that you are going to be productive.
How do you initiate that initial focus chemical? How do you invite that into your brain?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer is just start.
Okay.
Just start. There are lots of ways you break the cycle of whatever is stopping you from becoming productive today. That's the understanding thing. And then take some action. And if the idea of reading that paper or doing that project, which is going to take hours, is freaking you out, that's overwhelm. You're going to go and procrastinate. You're going to go and do anything but. You're going back to your comfort zone, whether it's eating food or the mental equivalent, watching TV, playing games, going for a walk, playing with the dog, right? Playing with the kids. All of that stuff has its place, but if it's when you're supposed to be working, not such a good idea. So you could start with taking action. 5 minutes. I'm going to do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm just going to give myself 10 minutes and then I'll review and I'll see how I feel after 10 minutes. Right. That's one thing. The other thing is strategy. We talked about that earlier. You mentioned strategy. You need strategy to organize your day, routines in your day. Things that are pre-decided are much less stressful and much more likely to happen. So if you can plan your day, which is what I encourage you to do, whether you do it the night before, or in the morning, or the week before, plan your day around strategies and build into it routines. And so that when you come to do so instead of sitting down and okay, I'm going to have to deal with that monster thing called the emails now, or as I call them, other people's agendas. So I think they should come with a government health warning. Just beware of emails, right?
Yeah.
But just instead of I'll just answer a few and see where it goes, because then the next thing you have been focused on them and hours have gone by and other things are not happening because you spent too much time on them, right? That's not the best use of your scholar. That's not the best use. So maybe just say, okay, well, I'm going to do my emails for 30 minutes. And then I'll prioritize, and I've got 100 emails. What am I going to do? Well, I'll prioritize. Okay, that one. And then if I've still got time, then I'll go into that one, and that one. And then at the end of 30 minutes or an hour or however long you got, you've allocated to it. Your schedule says time to do the next thing. You've given yourself permission to do that. So do it. Right. So it's all the strategies. That's why no one strategy works the same for everybody. But yes, the answer to your question is absolutely. Just start something. I like using pomodoros. That was a technique dreamt up by an Italian student in the 1980s, where you do, it's called a pomodoro because I don't know why it's called a pomodoro actually, that's a tomato. But it's just like you take a bite-sized chunk of time, so 25 minutes. Anyone can focus for 25 minutes, and then give yourself a 5-minute break, and then do anher pomodoro. I call them poms, like the Australian call the Brits poms. I'm going to do my 10 poms today. That for me is 5 hours each with 2 5-minute breaks in each hour. I'm going to do 10 poms today. I'm going to do 12 poms today. I schedule them. Now, the length of the pom is optional. 25 minutes is recommended, but you can make it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever works for you. And then a little break, just a little break. Right? All of these are strategies that are mentioned in the book, and most of your people will be aware of them. And if you're on a computer, these organized timings that I call pomodoros, a lot of software on computers now, a lot of apps built into the operating system because it's a good technique. But yeah, have strategy. The reason that works is because it de-stresses you. Right? It's like, oh, that's pre-decided. I'm just going to do that for half an hour and then I'm on to the next thing. Oh, that's pre-decided what I'm going to do then. Right.
Right.
The final thing is I hate to harp on about it. It does self-serving, but the external accountability. Remember when we were talking about like you've
Yeah.
got 12 weeks to do something.
Yep.
Well, in the business, because you're a student and they give you 3 months to do something.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the business world, you have the equivalent. You have projects that need to get done.
Yeah.
But if you're working for yourself,
Mm.
who's making you do them? Yeah, if you've got
Mm-hmm.
a client that you're working for, that's
Mm-hmm.
easy. You're
Yeah.
accountable to the client. You've got to
Right.
turn up when you said you were going to turn up.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not
Right.
being professional, and that's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
But say you've got a new project. Say you want to write a book. Well, how many
Right.
words am I going to write this week?
Mm-hmm.
Who decides?
Mm.
How many chapters it's going to be? Who decides?
Mm-hmm.
That's when external accountability kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you need somebody there saying, look, when do you want to finish the book by? Well, I'm going to take a year. That's realistic for me. It might not be realistic for someone else. It might be not enough time for other people. It might be too much time, but I'm going to take a year. Great. How many words do you want to write by the end of the first week, the first month, the first 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the accountability coach will help you to drill it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and here's the important distinction, they will hold you accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a way that no one else can. And by the way, I'm not talking about, they're going to hold your feet over the fire and send you electric shocks if you don't do it. The main thing that happens is that we don't like letting each other down. The other thing I didn't mention about your brain, by the way, is we're hardwired to be hurdle, the herd instinct. We are sociable creatures, and it is perfectly natural. This is why AI won't hold you accountable, because it's just AI. You know that even though you can program your computer, just check in with me every hour. Oh, I don't care. It's just a machine. It's not real, right? But I'm real. You're real. When the client feels accountable to you, I better turn up. You see, one of the things I do with my coaching, I do what I call laser focused coaching, where all my clients can have as many 15-minute coaching bouts as they like, as many as they like, right? Because I'm results focused. I charge based on the fact that it's not hours, but it's what results do you want to get?
Right.
And I say, well, do you need 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a week, 15 minutes a month, whatever works for you? But there's a condition. When you turn up at the next session, you must have completed whatever you agreed to do at the previous session. Otherwise, don't turn up, right? Because you are going to be letting me down, and more importantly, yourself.
Right.
There's that, but that's that social connection, right? And that, imagine if you throw your mind back to when you did your project at university and you had all of that time. What if your tutor was saying, Chris, at the end of every week, I expect to see a little note with like 4 or 5 bullet points of what you've actually done this week, and I will hold you accountable for if you haven't done that. How would that have made a difference?
It would have made a big difference. It really would have. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But if it was just like, I'm just going to make a note in my diary, and at the end of the week I'm going to check my progress, but no one else is going to see it,
right?
That's basically what you did.
Yeah 100%. And I'm still doing it, like these interviews for my podcast are so much fun, and I'm accountable to you to show up and have this conversation. It feels fun and effortless. My solo episodes require more executive function planning, and I'm having to motivate myself to do it. And I move it back one day, I move it back 2 days, and then finally my assistant is like, today is the day it has to be done, and then I do it.
Right. But and what's your assistant doing?
Holding me accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So either get your assistant to do it, or get a buddy, or and by the way, I always stress, not your significant other. It's not their job, right? That's a very unfair thing to do. Your significant other will hold you accountable, but don't make it their job to do that.
Right.
That's not fair. But you can ask friends, other business associates, or you can hire a professional and that is their job. Right? And imagine if let's say you had a target of I want to get 1 of these done a week, and that keeps sliding, or 2 a week, or 3, and that keeps sliding, right? Tell your accountability buddy or coach, that's my target, and expect to get hauled over the coals if you're not doing it.
Right.
Question for you: how much more likely is it to happen if you know that you've got to do that?
Oh, much more likely. I mean, way more likely. I give myself a lot of wiggle room when it comes to that kind of thing, and I do push it back. Or when it comes to doing the dishes, I avoid it. I mean, I'm a very skilled procrastinator when it comes to packing for a trip. Oh, I just need to have, maybe I need a bowl of chips before I start my packing. I hate packing.
So you're a professional procrastinator like I am.
I totally am.
And that's not a judgment. I mean, you've said it yourself, but also it's self-acceptance. It's fine.
Yeah.
but just have methods for dealing with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
actually, I was saying to someone the other day, even the dishes, right? Let's imagine, go back to my hypothetical that you want to be an oncologist 15 years from now. I don't know why I picked that one. It's just one that sprung to mind. I want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
last thing on earth I should do. I'd be a terrible doctor. But that is a very respectable
Yeah.
thing to want to be, right?
Yep.
And it requires a great deal of work, an enormous amount of work. So, okay, I'll do the dishes later. That is your excuse. That's your
Yep.
procrastination. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
Right, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Or actually, I digress. But you'll laugh at this. Oh, I hope so. I always like the sign in the famous sign in the Polish bakery that in Polish it says "free bread tomorrow." Right, and people go in and they come in and they say, oh, I was in here yesterday. I've come in for my free bread, and the baker says tomorrow, pointing at the sign. Right, and that's what we do. That's how we do it. So back to my dishes thing. Right. Okay, so not doing the dishes is not a big deal. That's what I call mild procrastination, unless the dirty dishes are sitting on the table that also doubles up as the table you lay out your textbooks to study. And it interferes with you with your study. So there is, and you might, so if you say your goal, because I talked earlier about your goals by themselves are not enough. In fact, they can set up obligation stress. Say your goal is, oh, I've got to get this essay done by the end of the month. That's a goal, right? And or 3 months, and it just the fact is it's just human nature. It feels too far away. It feels too ethereal. It's only when it's like, oh gosh, it's in 3 days time, you can suddenly relate and you panic. Right? But 3 months, 6 months, a year, or never, because it's not something you have to do, like your solo podcasts. It just feels like, oh, who cares? No one cares if I don't do it. I care, but no one's going to know. Right? No one's going to know if I don't do the dishes. But if you don't do the dishes, and your dream is to be an oncologist 15 years from now, and in order to get to the next step of being an oncologist, you have to get that essay in and you have to get a good mark. And the only thing stopping you getting that essay to a good mark is you need to clear the table tonight. Then the dishes are going to get done, aren't they? When you are focused, because that's the other piece I bring in the book, I have a whole chapter dedicated to creating your personal life vision. It's not a goal. Goals, they talk about writing down goals. I know lots of people have never written down their goals and they're very, very successful. They're not they're not by themselves enough. But a vision is something you just wake up with it in the morning. I don't know what your personal life vision is, Chris, but I guarantee, because you work for yourself, that when you wake up in the morning and after you've found your kids' clothes, where your kids hid their school shoes, because that's always the first cry every morning, where are my shoes? Why didn't you put them where they were supposed to? And all of that going on. Your first thought is, 5, 10, 15 years from now, I see myself living my life like whatever that is. I see myself sitting on the beach drinking pina coladas. I see myself only having to work 2 or 3 days a week. I see myself being qualified in this, that, and the other, whatever that is. You don't need to write it down. It's in your head. It's what drives you. You just need to remind yourself and be very clear. And if you're not clear, get clear. That's what my personal life vision chapter is all about. Get very, very clear and specific, so that you know that that's who you are becoming. You feel it, you sense it, everything about you epitomizes it, so that you know that not cleaning the dishes tonight could actually put off you achieving your ultimate dream for your life. And then they'll get done as well. And if you don't need that table, because your study table is somewhere else in the house, and that's always clear because you have a space where you can do that. Who cares? The dishes don't get done. So what?
Right. Oh, that's so good.
That's a kind of procrastination you don't need to worry about.
I'm so glad you touched on the life vision, because I think that obviously it has more of an influence on our behavior. And I think it's so important. And I think that a lot of people haven't taken the time to craft that vision. So
it's vital. If you think about all the successful people in the world, I guarantee you, not all of them had goals. Not all of them were well educated. But I guarantee you, all of them at some point developed a burning desire to be somebody in their field of expertise. There's a I won't name who it is because it's not relevant, but there's a British celebrity. Every time that the exam results are announced every August for how our students got their grades this year, he points out that he didn't get anything. He got nothing. He failed everything when he was at school. And he is now not just very, very famous, he's world famous actually, but he's particularly famous here, but he is a multi-millionaire many tens of times over. Right? He's not a billionaire, but he's very, very rich. And he said, and I never set a goal in my life. right? I
Mm.
won't name who it is because he's a controversial figure as well. And that's not the point. He's a
Yeah.
love hate type figure.
Yeah.
But the point is, he's saying, look, I'm successful. And but when you ask him why, he talks about, I just know I loved what I did.
Mm.
I always wanted to do this, and I just did
Mhm.
more and more and more and more. And he became so good at it.
Mm.
He didn't set goals. He just focused on it. He just went
Mhm.
for it. He
Mhm.
just was single-minded about it.
Yeah, and
And
when you love what you're doing, that focus chemical is naturally at play as well.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because
Mm.
that's the thing about losing touch with time again. Because time
Yep.
is, it's a very ethereal thing. Time. We all know that time can feel like it's taking forever, like during
Mhm.
the COVID lockdowns. Gosh, didn't
Mhm.
that time drag? But
Mhm.
now, how many people look back on the COVID years and I can't remember what happened? What happened?
Mm.
I'm
Mhm.
not talking about the people that were bereaved, and I'm sorry for those,
Right.
but people that just got through those years,
Yep.
and they were so bored, so
Mm.
amazingly bored. Time just felt like
Mhm.
it was taking forever. And now, I don't know
Mhm.
about you, but I was watching what was it I was watching earlier? Something came on the TV, and I was like, this was made when?
Mm.
2016?
Mm.
No, no, 5 years ago, sure. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I lost 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've lost track of the amount of times I said, oh, I've lost 5 years in the
Yeah.
last year or two. I
Yeah.
was busy. I was
Yeah.
writing my book,
Right.
but I still lost track of time because there was so much of it to do, to be bored. I mean,
Mhm.
how many people if you fly, how many people hate being on a long flight?
Mm.
I know I'm one of them. I
Oh
hate it.
yeah.
What's to
Yeah.
like? There's nothing to like about it. I
Mm.
mean, England to America is 11, 12 hours
Mm.
of utter tedium and boredom.
And
And every
discomfort.
time I've been on one of those flights, I've sworn I'm never going to do this again. Never going to do this again. And then 3 days later, I'm like, oh, I think I'll come out here again. And I'm like, well, what's changed? I can't remember I can't remember the flight. There was nothing to remember.
Right.
That's
Right.
time. This is all our perception of time. That's the point
Yeah.
I'm making.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. We covered a lot of territory today, Robin. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us how we can find you and how we can learn more from you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Well, there's a couple of ways you can find me. The first is I'm on LinkedIn. Just look up Robin J. Emdon. And I'm the only Robin J. Emdon in the world. I'm probably the only Robin Emdon in the world, but I always use the J. Like J.K. Rowling uses a K because
Yeah.
I think it just sounds cooler. I don't know why. I just do. It's just me being a bit egotistical, I suppose. But anyway, Robin J. Emdon, look me up on LinkedIn, message me there. The other way is now I would love to get my book into people's hands. Now you can buy it from Amazon. You can borrow it from the British Library. They've got a copy of it in the British Library. I'm so thrilled. That's not because
Cool.
they wanted it. It's because it's the law in the UK. They got to have it. So I'm bragging about it. It's in the British Library. But you can buy it from Amazon. You can buy the Kindle from Amazon. But I want to get this technology out there. I want to get it into people's hands. I want to help people. I want to add value. So what I've done is I've bundled it up as an unabridged PDF,
Mm.
and you can have it for free.
Wow.
100% free. No
Wow.
strings attached. You can just have it for free, and you
Mm.
can get that from I've created you can find it through my main website, which is spookily enough
Mhm.
getresultsology.com,
Mhm.
or you can get it from reallyusefultips.com. They both take you to the same link.
Mhm.
It's reallyusefultips.com. It's just easier to remember because I really mean it. I really am giving it away for now. I haven't yet come to my senses, so get it while you can. It useful as in I hope you'll find it really useful. Tips as in it's full of them. It's full of tips. Reallyusefultips.com. And here's the thing. In the book, at the end of the first chapter, I invite you to hold yourself accountable to me for free, no charge, by signing a pledge saying that you're going to read the book and do the exercises in the book. Yes, there are exercises in there because I want you to experience the strategies. I don't suggest that you will end up using them all. I suggest try them out.
Yeah.
Put like trying on clothes, see which fits best for you, see which doesn't.
Mm.
So commit, sign the pledge, and then email it to me. And there's an email address there. I think it's just mypledge@getresultsology.com, something like that. Just
Okay.
email me with a pledge. I read them all. I reply to them all. I do not have someone answering those emails. You
Mm.
will get a reply from me, and I'll be delighted to hear from you.
Mm.
And you can message me that way as well. You can just get me at robin@getresultsology.com. But do the pledge. Why not? What you got to
Yeah.
lose? The book's free.
Absolutely. Very generous,
Oh,
Robin.
can I just add,
Yeah.
by the way, just as
Yeah.
for some people,
Sure.
the book is too much. So if you want to taste it, I've done a little video course as well, which I also give away for free.
Oh,
And the
cool.
video course is a little 5-day challenge, 10 minutes a day, just a flavor of what's in the book. It's based entirely on the book. And that you can find at skyrocketyourproductivitychallenge.com. That's
All right.
skyrocketyourproductivitychallenge.com. And they can also, again, no strings attached. You can have that for free as well.
Wow. Thank you so much. We will put all those links in the show notes so you can grab all the goodness that Robin has to offer. Robin, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for allowing me to do it. It's been my absolute pleasure. I hope it's been of service to you and your listeners.
Is your website turning away potential clients? I can help you turn that around. Book a money-making messaging call with me today, and we'll transform your story into your most powerful sales tool. That's all for this episode of From Click to Client. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. I'm Chris Jones, and I'll see you next time.